Welcome to DubLife Diaries, the podcast where passion meets the open road. I'm Joe Person, your host, and also a lifelong dubber. Buckle up because this ride is just beginning. This podcast is sponsored by Volksmania magazine. Good times, great cars, awesome Volksmaniacs. Visit Volksmania.com to learn more about this class-leading VW magazine. All right. Welcome back to DubLife Diaries. What is up, everybody? This one is going to be just a little bit different today because this isn't about a viral build. It's not about flexing a finished car. It's not even about success, at least maybe not the Instagram version of success. This episode's about the builders that you don't see in the scene that much anymore. The ones who were everywhere at one point, and then one day, they're not there anymore. So if you were into Volkswagens in the early 2000s, there's a good chance you started your mornings scrolling past what we knew as the Dub Lab. Every day, paint, suspension, real builds, real conversations, even before algorithms, before sponsored content, before experts were an online brand, which, by the way, the Dub Lab was an online brand and had a ton of followers. Anyway, my guest today is Derek Ryan, one of the guys behind the Dub Lab, a painter, a fabricator, a problem solver, and for a moment in time, one of the most trusted voices in the VW scene. But here's the part that people don't talk about. Building at that level, sometimes it costs something, and sometimes that price isn't worth paying forever. This is a story about passion, about burnout, about craft, about influence, and about the moment that you realize that you have to choose between the thing that you love and the life that you want to keep. This episode is the builder that walked away. Let's get into it. Derek Ryan, welcome to DubLife Diaries.
Right on, man. Thank you. Appreciate you having me here.
Man, you are so welcome. So welcome. I'm excited for this one. I don't really get an opportunity to talk about this, right? Somebody that is still in the Volkswagen scene, but not from that angle quite as much anymore. Before we get going into this one, though, let me give a quick shout out to some sponsors. First up on the list, Volksmania magazine. You guys know how I feel here. Paul Cave and the team, a bunch of really awesome folks. I feel this is the flyest VW publication on the face of the planet. Issue number 25 is coming out soon. Make sure you check out my man Brad Long from Long Restoration and my buddy Jaga Rai from Canada, who also have features through DubLife Diaries in number 25. Also, shout out real quick to my buddy Gil from Type Society. Gil sent me this shirt around the holidays. Shares all kinds of cool stuff in the scene. Puerto Rico is banging, dude. Going off. They got some really, really nice builds down there. Gil's got his Carmen Gia in number 25 as well. All right, my man. Back to you. Back to you. For people who don't know you or maybe forgot that they knew you, right? Tell me who Derek Ryan was back then and who Derek Ryan is today.
So yeah, I mean, I think when we first moved forward with the Dub Lab, I caught Facebook had been around for a minute, a couple years, I guess, and I was getting more familiar with it, and so we just started kind of putting stuff out there, and it picked up steam real quickly. I don't know that there was a lot of competition for people's screen time.
Right.
Um, But to your point earlier, I guess I kind of moved into a lot of people's daily habits by just putting a steady stream of content and always responding to comments and just tried to create a space where people felt there was someone on the other end. And um, that was around 2011 is when we started. So yeah, in those early days of Facebook, we also had a little Instagram present early on. I don't have that page anymore, but um, so yeah. I mean, I think we had over 40,000 people on our page at one point, which today is probably not that big a deal, but
No, it's a
in
big deal, man.
in 2012, it was like, what?
Dude.
So
Yeah, that
yeah,
was like a
and
celebrity status in
yeah.
2012. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always message people back and I give my phone number out to not just everybody, hopefully, but I respected people that were real and genuine and not, you know what I mean? There's a lot of egos and stuff in the world, but certainly in the automotive trade. And I don't know, I've just always tried to be pretty humble.
You're
So
you're
yeah.
you're you're an awesome dude. So tell me then, who's Derek Ryan today?
Today, okay. Well, professionally, I'm in the landscape space. I mean, I've had two trades pretty much my whole career, auto body related and landscaping. I've owned a couple landscape businesses, and I'm in sales. I work for a big company, and what I specialize in is real basically property renovations. I'm a guy that'll walk you through from a concept. I've got some software that I can help with 3D renderings and stuff. I'm
Sick.
I like creating things and being a
Yeah.
part of a creative process, whether it's with automobiles or landscaping, and I'm pretty good at it. And from a career standpoint, and we'll talk more about that later as part of why I left the scene.
Hmm.
Um, landscaping in Central Florida is huge. Um, the
Yes, it
Vol
is.
the Volkswagen specific business in Orlando, Florida is not so huge. So that was a driver of it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, my son is turning 24 this year, so remarried. We live on a beautiful private lake. We got a couple acres, and
Heck yeah, man.
life is good, man.
Okay.
I don't have any complaints. So
Yeah, awesome. So when we talk about Dub Lab, do you still feel tied to it, or does it maybe feel like this was a lifetime ago for you?
both. I
Okay.
mean, it's something I put my heart and soul in. It's a
Clearly.
brand that I built. Um, I mean, I had help. Jim partnered with us, but I mean, I started developing the idea of online presence and just putting pictures out all the time every day and just getting engagement. I started that before we actually started the shop. Um,
What's Jim's full name?
Jim Spiker.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jim and I partnered. He had a business called Auto Style, still has it in Leesburg.
Okay.
And Jim's background was like mini trucks and walls of speakers and I love that too, but I like the modifications and the paint jobs and but I came from the mini truck scene as well. And Jim, the picture behind you, the panel was Jim's 67 panel. And so yeah, he's a VW too, and we happen to live in the same area. And we chatted for a few months about it. I'd stop by and visit with him, and I was like, screw it, man. Let's try it, you know. And it went well. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So people nowadays, if they recognize you, it shows. How's it feel? Like, what does it bring up for you?
It's great. I got a couple friends in Florida that they'll still wear the Dub Lab shirts. We sold probably not as many as others, but we definitely went through four or five, big batches of shirts and did a whole thing online and people got involved with our designs and stuff. I'd get feedback and I always tried to make everything to some degree involve the user on the other end a little bit. Um, so yeah, it's funny when we go to shows and I see another Dub Lab shirt walking around, I'll always go up and talk to them. And sometimes it's people I know, sometimes it's not. So that's always cool.
Yeah, yeah. So when I say this, so like even in your intro, and even when we talk about it, when you hear a phrase like the builder that walked away, does it feel accurate to say that? I mean, is it okay for me to say the builder that walked away, or
My
is that not
my
really accurate?
my first response when I heard you say that was negative internally, but the more I've thought about it, you're not wrong.
Okay.
The reasons I walked away are worth talking about. But it wasn't really it it's just how life
It,
happened, and
it wasn't something that you gave up on. It was just
no, not
something
at all. Not at all.
circumstantially, right?
Not at all.
Right. And I didn't want you to take that from me when I said that I was going to name this episode The Builder That Walked Away. I was hopeful that it didn't come with anything negative to you because it's not like I name it that, but I don't want anybody, you or anybody else, to think that I mean you just walked away. Life got in the way. I spent 25 years away from Volkswagens myself
Yeah.
because I had kids and it wasn't right for me. I was traveling. I didn't have time for a hobby, to be really quite honest. And yeah, so yeah, don't take it the wrong way. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like you said, it's also true. So there's validity behind that as well. But okay, you're not upset by it.
No, the more I thought about it, I mean, it's you're not you're not wrong, and I think it speaks to maybe scenarios that others in the scene have had. I mean, the Volkswagen is just one of the unique things in life that can grab you, and not everybody makes a career out of it, but I bet there's a lot more people than we realize that at some period of their life, maybe even a few year little window, they were big deal. It was a big deal to them, you know? So I like the concept here, and I hope it helps you reach maybe others that maybe would have scrolled past.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So let's talk Volkswagens, right? So take me back to that first VW ride. I believe you said was with your cousin, right?
Yeah, that is true, but it wasn't my first ride. So
Oh,
you got to go back to I think around 87,
okay.
1987 or so. So at that time, Volkswagens were still a lot on the roads, certainly more than today. And I was in the skateboard scene pretty heavy, and one of my older friends, he was a few years older than me, skate guy that we would skateboard with a lot. He had an old ratty convertible of some kind. I mean, for all I know, it was a super rare oval, but it could have been a, who knows, 69, whatever. It was a beater though, and like the top wasn't even on it. So I mean, he could only drive it on sunny days. So, we'd ride around in that, and I mean, so I knew about them, and my dad had a Beetle before I was born, and um, other friends, I'd had a lot of instances with them, but yes, my cousin who's 7 years older than I am, he and his dad built a early 60s Beetle. This was 80, 85, 86, 87 era. It was a pink bug with black scallops, lowered, door handle shaved, cow look. But what I remember the most is he had the common mirrors that like even mini truckers were using back then, that had the little rubber boot around the base of it, and he had an
Yep.
actuator. He had an actuator button. That's where he opened his doors. Um,
Sick.
and yeah, and it was lowered, and I don't remember it in detail, but I mean, at that age of 13 or whatever, however old I was, it was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen. He had a bunch of chrome on the motor, and so yeah, we were hanging out in the cul-de-sac where we lived, our little skate park, and he just comes roaring in one day, and he's like, "Hop in, man, let's go for a ride." And we spent a couple hours together riding around town, and I don't know, man. It was just super cool experience, and it always stuck with me. But as I got into high school, the mini truck thing was the rage, and my first vehicle was a Mazda mini truck, and
Hmm.
it
The
had
B
been
the
a
B
it had been
2200 or whatever.
yeah, it had been I mean, I'll say show truck, but I mean, it had been nicer than it was when I bought it. But they had the removable hard top. They had cut it, and there was this little kit. You could just glue the plastic and had these little, brackets to latch it in, and you could take the hard top off and set it in your bed and drive around. But it leaked like crazy. I mean, like like it poured water in when it rained, and it had hail damage all over it, but for your first car, I mean, it was cool, and I rocked with one of my best friends who was in hardcore minis. So we rolled with all those guys, and that's kind of what started to expose me to vehicle modifications and painting and all that kind of stuff. So um,
You went to Daytona back then, right?
So we used to hit up the local shows. There were mini truck shows, smaller local ones, but the big one was the car audio show at Ocean Center in Daytona, the Spring Break Nationals.
Oh yeah.
I went to that. I went to that 2 or 3 years in a row. And I think it was in '92. I can't remember exactly, but the Orion speaker, Orion amps were very popular at the time. And in the Orion booth, there were, I think, three, badass hot rods that happened to also have Orion, components in it. I believe they were Boyd Coddington builds. They were that style of build for sure, and
Yeah.
from that era. But there was a '50 Buick. I meant to, I apologize. I meant to dig through some old photos. I'd like you to see the car that influenced me.
Send
But
it.
it was this peachy kind of orange and like a charcoal metallic. The peach color was solid and the charcoal was metallic. But they had dechromed the whole car. And if you're familiar with the '50 Buick, they've got these crazy like teeth-like grill. I mean, when I
Yeah.
walked up to it,
I know that car.
it looked like it looked like a monster. And it was
Badass.
laid on the ground, had all tweed interior. I mean, you know the era, but I bet I spent an hour just walking around that car and just looking just at the finish and the gaps and I didn't really know how to look at a car, with the kind of eye I have now,
Sure.
but that almost like made you look at it that way. I opened it up, looked all inside. I mean, I was just really captured by that. And my best friend Scott was always into the car audio and ended up being an installer for a while after high school. Um,
And you say
so
this
I
was
mean,
like
I was
92, right? How old were
yeah.
you? How old were you here?
Well, I was 17 when I graduated. I graduated in '93, so 16, 17.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so it's like most of the people I was interacting with in the mini trucks were into the car audio and whatever they could kind of bolt on to modify their cars.
Sure.
It was a niche group that were really into the modifying and repainting and shaving stuff at that time, at least in Orlando. So I started to kind of gravitate towards that. Um, After high school, I went to Valencia for like one semester and then decided to go to Mid Florida Tech for auto body repair.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
probably right at that time then, 17, 18. My question I had for you was when did you realize that you weren't really just into cars, that you were also into building? And I think that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah. Well, that would go back to my skateboarding days. In Apopka, we didn't have, which is in Central Florida, right outside Orlando.
Yep.
We didn't have a lot of places to skate. There were ramps, but they were a lot of the BMXers were riding on them, and they were big and intimidating to
I
some of
remember.
us. To some
Yeah,
of us,
I remember.
um, and we got tired of getting chased by the cops, going to places to skate we weren't supposed to be at, and all that. So I actually responded to Thrasher magazine and sent some money in and got a Thrasher ramp building book. So there's this little paperback book, nothing fancy. And I kind of became the ramp builder for my little hub of skateboard friends. We were building, what we call death boxes and launch ramps and, mini ramps and all kinds of stuff. And actually, I had a shop class in the 8th grade, and my final exam that I aced, I got the highest score in the class. My final exam was a 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall launch ramp that I built in shop class with those plans and had to put it on my skateboard and push it 2 miles home after school. So,
That's sweet, man. But
but yeah, yeah,
those were the days. In that same time, that's what I was doing. I was I'm just a little bit behind you. I'm class of 95. I'm 48. But yeah, I was right there in those years doing the same stuff. We were building ramps. I had shop class in 8th grade. We were learning about transition. We'd build half pipes, we'd build quarter pipes, we'd build little launch ramps, and when you build them, you know every little intricacy of the ramp. So if it's you just know the ramp, right? So I feel like I was better on the ramps that I built, as far as ollie air and tricks and methods and just all the stuff that was cool back then. Now it's like, you poser.
Oh,
You
yeah, I
know,
don't, I mean, I can carve a little bit and yeah, but I'm too fragile these days. I don't want to fall and break something.
I'm gonna tell you a
I
funny
got,
story and then we're gonna get back to you. I'm in Colorado. It's probably, I don't know, 20, maybe 2016. And my kid's getting into skateboarding and he's got this quarter pipe that I'd found on Facebook Marketplace. I went and picked up. The guy said I could have it if I could haul it away. So I obviously, could haul it away. But anyway, we got skateboards and I got my son aboard and there was this skate shop down in Manitou Springs and we all got boards and I spent a bunch of money on mine. It was a double tail. It was more the bigger version. Anyway,
yeah,
outside the front of my house is this big downhill, this big slope. And I knew I used to have it. I used to think I was like Christian Slater, man. I was gleaming the cube, dude. You couldn't, speed, all that stuff. I'd hold on to cars and everything, man. And, we all did. But I get out there and I got all my kids in the driveway and I start going down this hill. And, dude, I'm telling you, 25 or 30 yards in, I already knew, hey, this is a mistake. So I tried to step off the board and bail.
yeah.
I rolled and skinned I got road rash all over my elbows, my wrists, my
Yeah,
hands, my knees.
yeah.
Damaged the pants that I had on. And what's worse is my neighbor was home next door and she watched me fall. And she's like, "Oh, I'll never forget this. Oh," she came running out into the road. She's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my dude, I'm in my 40s, bro. Like, what are you doing, guy?" So my kids were laughing and yeah, man. So I can't shred anymore. And I've accepted that I'm not gonna. I
Well,
gotta show up for work tomorrow. I can't be all skinned up and anyway, funny
my
story.
buddy, my buddy Phil Hickey, what up, Phil? Um, Local guy here, Central Florida, is a few years older than me and still shreds it up on his skateboard, man.
I got one of them too. Guy I used to
Yeah,
skate with,
yeah,
Danny Maris. He's an artist and he does a lot of my Volkswagen stuff now for me. But bro, he's like a pro skater still. He's like very
yeah.
good. He does all the new tricks and he skates all the skate parks. Dude, he's 48. He's my age. And he shreds. He's so good. I mean, his Instagram is popping right now. Um,
Yeah, but I always gravitated to things with my hands. Of course, growing up, I was always exposed to landscaping and always helping my dad do landscape projects on the weekends or working at his nursery. I mentioned the shop class.
mhm.
I've always enjoyed art, and in school, I took a lot of art classes. I can't draw my way out of a paper bag. But I found out that I was really good at three-dimensional stuff,
Okay.
and I really excelled in a sculpting class. Got really high grade and recognized I had some skills there. And then pottery, I was really good at pottery as well. Um, so looking back, you just start seeing kind of the seeds and whatnot. So later in life, when I finally got around body shops and got to working in the shops. It's not surprising that I picked it up so well. The other thing I did in high school to make money was detail cars. I found that I just really had a knack for it. To give credit where it's due, my dad was super anal. We always washed the cars every weekend, so we'd pull them in the grass, and then like once a month we would re-wax it. And being a dad now, I get it because he saw real quickly. He's like, "Wow, you're really good at this, and you seem to enjoy it. I'm gonna let you do it."
Perfect.
So, but then I started making side money for family friends and stuff, detailing their cars. But another seed started planting, which was I could only, it only looked as good, no matter the effort I put in, it only looked as good as the quality of finish that was on it. And really all I was doing was applying, wax and whatnot by hand. So when I would start seeing little scratches, I was like, huh. So then I start hearing about a buffer, a tool that I need to use. So I start learning how to use the buffer, get into even higher end detailing, had a little deep detail business at one point.
Hmm.
But then the same thing started happening. It's like, okay, well, I can only polish this to a point without, polishing the paint off, or like I'm still at the mercy of the quality of the finish.
Mm.
So that continued to push me into the paint and body space. And I became an apprentice at a collision shop that did rental cars and like cop cars and cars that were going to auction, nothing fancy, right?
Hmm.
Um, but this painter loved me because I very, very quickly became his best asset. And all he had to do was hang out in the booth and paint stuff and, tell me if I'm doing a good job or not. Um,
You know what I'm
so
hearing? You know what I'm
with,
hearing in your youth is I'm hearing that you cared a lot about the
yeah,
outcome of stuff. And I think that's a big fundamental difference between people that are successful with their hands and not, is you really
yeah,
have to care about the outcome. It can't just be something that you're good at or whatever. It's got to, actually have to give a shit. You got to care.
that's very important and a trait I've always had. And then the next thing is just always wanting to know, like somebody's going to tell you where the line of quality is. Like this is just good enough, And I'm like, okay, well, I want to learn how to do it better, And I always kind of push that envelope. And interesting story, the painter that I was an apprentice for, had an unfortunate crack addiction. His brother owned the shop, so he would take advantage of his brother and go on these sprees and just disappear for a while. And he kept putting his brother in a bad spot as a business owner. And I would, do little things to try to help push the jobs. And finally he came in and he was like, I need this car painted. I'd never painted a whole car. I'd taped them up, prepped them, buffed them after they were done all the other steps. Um, so he's like, do you think you're ready? And I was like, hell yeah. And so I basically took his brother's job that day. I had been there 6 months and took the painter's job. So, but
You
yeah,
know,
and
I,
then
I
and
got a
then
question about paint.
yeah,
What separates nice paint from perfect paint? Because there's 10,000, $15,000 paint jobs out there that you hear about. So I always
yeah.
like to talk to the craftsmen and ask those types of questions. What does
Well,
separate perfect paint from nice paint?
the preparation of the surface, a paint job's only going to look as good as the surface that it's laying over.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're talking the uber high end, which is the panel to panel blocked, perfectly mirror, straight finish, no wobbles in the reflection. I mean, yeah, it's an amazing paint job, but that paint job only looks that good because of the all the thousands of hours of work that were done before it.
Got it.
Um, and that continued to be my evolution, because I became a really good collision painter, and even got up to high-end European body shops. I mean, I was doing nothing but Mercedes and Porsche and Audi, and
Nice, man.
I mean, I was working with the best European paint lines, Sikkens and Glazeret, and um, had the $120,000 booth and all that, and I still got bored with that, and my draw was back to the custom and classic space. And there was a shop in Winter Park that I had become familiar about, a guy named Bob Alford. It's called Pro Street Customs. And so I would stop by and talk to Bob every now and then, and he's like, "Yeah, I could use some help." But shit, I was 20, I don't know, 22, 23 years old, making 70 grand a year as a high-end European painter, which was hella
Dang,
money.
bro.
It
Hell
was it
yeah.
was hella money in late 90s, early 2000s. And he's like, well, I mean, I can pay you like 17 bucks an hour. I was like, dang. Um, but I got so frustrated one day, I just decided to quit and go do that, and started working with Bob and doing side jobs and stuff to make ends meet. Um, and I ended up working for Bob two different times, and Bob really showed me. I mean, I could make a car look really nice prior to working for Bob. I could even make stuff that you could call a show car, but Bob specializes in black. He was a Chevy guy. It was all Art Morrison chassis, 572 crate motor, like just big, obnoxious, modified hot rods. But people really, what he really specialized was black paint jobs. And
Which I,
black is,
from what I hear, is like the very hard color, right?
yeah, I mean, well, it's easy to spray black, but the finish shows everything.
Right,
If the car's not straight and you're gonna paint it black and you're gonna sand all the orange peel off, everybody and God is gonna see what that bodywork really looks like.
right.
So Bob's the one that really took me from, I mean, I was as good a painter as anybody at the time, spraying the most complicated, not custom colors, but as far as like factory colors, even some three stage, using the nice products. But Bob's the one that really helped me hone my sculpting skill and took me from what I consider a really good painter to a craftsman level body man. And then I did high end auto body sculpting and painting for another 4 or 5 years before we started the Dub Lab.
So you talked about in your background about this Super Beetle that was really kind of the beginning for learning the mechanical side of stuff. Talk about that. Well, give me some details on that Super Beetle.
Yeah, so my first serious girlfriend, back in my partying days and whatnot, drove a 75 Super Beetle that her dad had built. And again, I'd had some exposure to Volkswagens, and I had some exposure to mechanical stuff. I changed the oil in my truck and put lowering blocks on the leaf springs and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Um, but we were kind of at the mercy because I didn't have a car at the time. We were kind of at the mercy of her dad who built the car, and the motor and everything. And anytime something went wrong, she had to take it to him. Well, after dating her for a little while, I found out what a piece of what he was and the kind of character he was and the horrible things he had done to her. And I couldn't get in front of this man anymore. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn how to work on these cars. They can't be that hard, I mean, if a hippie can drop acid and drive across the country and then
Hell
you know
yeah.
so yeah, so that guy went and bought the, magazine or the Haynes manuals. I didn't know about Bentley at the time, and bought some tools, and but I ended up getting a job at a shop called the Bug Hut,
Mm,
and this was around 96. So the
mm.
Bug Hut in the 80s was a pretty big part of the V-dub scene. A lot of the old heads here will remember the Bug Hut. Well, the guy that I worked for was like the last version of it. He had bought it from some of the previous owners when it was big and popular. And it was just a small shop in East Orlando. And Rory was the guy that owned it. And Rory was actually more of a biker than a V-dub guy. So I got to work on a lot of trikes. But what he
Fun.
specialized in was helping people that were still daily driving their Volkswagens. We didn't, I painted a couple cars for him there and we did a few cool things, but I really got to learn how to work on daily driven cars and keep them on the road. And
Yeah.
um, he would rebuild motors that had still a decent case because we had so many parts laying around. If they needed a new rod or crank or something, he was just really gifted at economical service for Volkswagen people and helping them keep the cars on the road. Um, so that was all kind of happening at the same time. And then I bought my first Volkswagen was a 1970 Squareback. Um, and I really started getting into the Type 3s. We were going to the shows, we were going to Lakeland and Bug Jam. And I don't think there was a whole lot else going on in Central Florida back then, but I know we hit those every year for a couple years. Um,
I
but
did
I was
too
just
back then.
really, yeah, I was really drawn right out of the gate to the type threes.
What
Um,
any reason? You just
well,
sexy to you, or
you
what
know,
was the
I
reason?
I liked Porsches, and I'd worked on quite a few Porsches in that time period and after, and obviously just love the German cars, and that's just kind of the epitome of the German shape, and it's so different than other vehicles, the Porsche. And I always liked that the Type 3 it's almost like Ferdinand kind of bringing his Porsche his Porsche shapes and stuff into the VW realm. I mean, obviously the Beetle was the cash cow, and the popular one, but I was always really drawn to the Type 3. I also liked the pancake motor and the second storage space,
Yeah.
in the back, and that a square back, especially, you lay the seat down. I mean, you basically have a station wagon. You've almost got a truck bed behind you there. So
Right, right. My wife is Porsche, same way, is attracted to the Carmen Ghia for those same reasons. She
yeah.
also likes the older classic Porsches and whatnot, but we're not going to spend 100 grand on
Yeah.
an early
Well,
19
at least, yeah,
Porsche.
at least on the Type 3s, you can take a bad fender off and find a good fender and put it on. I mean, the
Yeah,
Gias are
can't
more
do that.
reminiscent. Yeah, they're more reminiscent of the 356, and
Yes.
that's why finding a good one, especially these days, that's unmolested, for a good candidate for restoration is really hard. And if you find one that's super OG or restored, I mean, they're just big money.
Yeah,
But
we got a 71. You may have heard in some other episodes, but when she finally told me, okay, this is the car that I like. If it's kind of like she said, if I have to have a Volkswagen, you don't have to have one, right? But I wanted to buy her one, and she's like, okay, I don't really want one, but if I have to have one, I'd like to have a Carmen Ghia. I said, "Oh, really?" I was excited then because I like the Carmen Ghia. I probably wouldn't have bought one for myself, but I like it for her. So anyway, man, I start. You know how we are, all of us. I start combing Marketplace and Samba, and I start looking. Well, I have another caveat. She says I don't want a stick shift. I'm like, oh, well, that's out then. It's impossible. So I start doing some research, learning the Ghia a little bit, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. My first car, 72 Standard Beetle, had the auto clutch. And I found out that the 70s, the early 70s model, or I think from 68 on, they put the auto clutch in it. So I was like, baby, I got good news. I told her we can get a semi-automatic. She's like, what's that? I'm like, well, I told her about it. She already knew. I told her all the stories about me driving my car in high school. And she's like, well, if you can find one, and it's gonna run fine. I'm like, okay, dude. Not only did I find one, but I found a one owner with
Mhm.
46,000 original miles in Pennsylvania of a car that was running rough because it was original, but was beautiful, like
Mhm.
super solid. And again, super low original miles. So I drove all the way to Pennsylvania from St. Petersburg, Florida. Uh, at the closest location I could, I picked up a flatbed U-Haul trailer about 30 minutes from this guy's house. And I think still on our Instagram is the day that we pulled up there, and he lifts the doors up on this barn. And in the back corner, sitting in the dust, is this Carmen Ghia. It's a 71. And I'm like, oh, you know, we go walk around the car, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, we're gonna take it. I'm popping the hood. I'm looking. I'm like, dude, the electrical is just perfect. It's like unmolested and just so nice. Anyway, this ain't about me. Um,
Nah, well, to your point, my wife wants a Gia too.
oh, cool,
She's
man.
more. She grew up around. I mean, her parents were big time '57 Chevy hot rodders. They had a couple of them, and her mom only recently sold the one she'd had for I don't know how long, decades probably. Um, but Christine thinks the Ghia is the sportiest looking of the Volkswagens. So
Yeah.
she wants a Ghia convertible, and she wants it to be fast.
Oh, sweet,
Uh,
man. You know what?
so
What you said, the 57. So I have to kind of say this because we're talking about Type 3s, but the notchback to me looks like a little
mhm.
micro machine version of a 57 Chevy Bel Air to me.
It's got a little shoebox vibe in there too. I've worked on
Yeah, man.
a lot
Yeah.
of the early 50s shoebox cars. So yeah, I mean
So,
the notchback really is the one. I mean, from my early VW days, I had a top three. I had a top three. We all have top threes, and really mine hasn't really changed since then. Double cab, oval rag top. Obviously, and just I want to say this. I mean, split window. Everybody would want a split window Beetle too. For me, being into the body lines and that being part of a trade I've spent a lot of time in. The lines, to me, the lines of an oval Beetle, early oval, I like the lights a little better, but the W deck lid, the oval window, I honestly prefer over the split,
Mhm.
just because I think an oval ragtop Beetle is possibly one of the best thoughts of a body in a vehicle made into reality. I mean, it's perfect.
I love hearing
So the double cab, oval rag top, and a notchback. Those were always my three. Now I've owned and driven two of the three. I have owned a notchback. I had a 64 that I carried around for years. That was going to be my car I was going to build and debut to the VW scene.
that. Hmm.
Um, when we had the Dub Lab, I actually ended up selling it to a client, and we got through the metalwork phase, and the relationship just didn't, he wanted $100,000 car for 40 grand, and it just didn't pan out. But it's a shame because I literally moved that car around and preserved that car for 10 years as a goal to restore it. So the
Wow.
notchback is still on my list. It's still one I need to own and drive.
Yeah, I got three as well. Like you said, we all do. Beetle, notchback, and for me, bay window, bus, tin top. I like just the metal top, transporter type, certainly lowered, etc.
Yeah.
I love splits as well, bus. I had one too. Um, yeah, I just like the bay just a little bit better. And
Uh,
modify it. I like the Safari windshields and all that fun
Hey,
stuff. And but those are my three.
we have a 69 Riviera bay window camper. That's the best riding Volkswagen I have ever owned. The
I hear
bay
that a
the
lot. I
the
hear that a lot.
the bay windows are just, I get it. I had a 67 double cab. I mean, Safaris, I mean, come on, man. I want it again.
Yeah.
Um, but this bay of ours, I don't care if it's not the most popular bus at the show. It's probably one of the nicest riding ones when I get in it and leave, though.
Yeah, right on. That
So
fastback though, you said you sold it, right?
yeah, so when I was at
You
the
still
at the
still regret it?
back in the day at the Bug Hut, when I was getting into the Type 3s, I had the 70 square back that I was working on, but I kept driving by this house in East Orlando, and I could just see in the woods, poking out of the woods, the front end of I knew it was a Type 3, I could tell. And it looked like it was white in color, but it had all kinds of growth, vegetation, and shit on it. So I stopped by one day and talked to the people. Long story short, I wasn't really in a position to buy it, but they liked me so much. She let me make payments on it. So I made payments. I would go by every Friday and pay them like 100, $150.
Yeah.
I bought it for $1,500,
Ah, dude,
um,
so cool.
and towed this car out of there. And I thought it was going to be really rough. I mean, honestly, I didn't really even get to see it. I mean, you know what I mean? But I pulled it out of there. It was a complete car. I got it cleaned off, pressure washed it, started washing it, and I'll be damned if it didn't have a nice paint job under it. It had had a respray on it, but it was still nice. Had a couple rust spots under the battery, on the body, and then under the battery, of course, was rusty. But yeah, man, I rewired that car, new wiring harness, fixed the floor. Now we didn't have Type 3 floors back then, metal floors.
Hmm.
So, or even patches for them. So the closest thing I found was a Gia floor, and I was able to kind of cut and modify that and finish the floor out. I mean, it looked beautiful. Um, had the motor rebuilt, put a 1641, with the dual carbs, and lowered it a little bit because the Type 3s, you could adjust the torsions on it. And man, I drove the shit out of that car. I love that
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
And what happened is when I drove it every day. I was a painter at that German body shop, and next door to us was a guy that bought wrecks and like sold. I don't know what all the business was, but they had a steady stream of just different things that would come in. And a black Volkswagen Corrado came in, and where they parked it up against the fence. my booth out back where I primed, it was my primer booth. When I would walk back to go in that booth, I would stare at this Volkswagen Corrado and it had the whole front end torn apart. I didn't know what was wrong with it. Long story short, I worked out a deal, bought that car, didn't really have the money. So the guy I worked for loaned me some money. We had to put some money in the front end, radiator and fans and expensive European electronic shit that we had to do to it. Um, but got it driving and come to find out it had had a bunch of motor work done to it. I mean, this was before everybody was slapping turbos and stuff on cars, but I mean, this was a fairly worked over VR6 in the late 90s. And so I had to pay my boss back. So a friend had been badgering me to sell my 66 fastback to him, and I didn't want to. Um, but I did. I sold that car, shouldn't have, but I did it to drive a water-cooled badass VR6 Corrado for a little while. An
Yeah,
interesting story on that car,
mhm.
and why I don't drive a fast car as a daily driver anymore. Street racing was popular. All the guys in the Hondas were, swapping the GSR motor and all the things, right?
Oh yeah, I remember those
And
days,
I
late
got I
90s.
got I got pulled over. I got pulled over 5 times, not for speeding, for street racing.
Mm.
Literally street racing, and probably could have gone. I know for sure a couple of those times I could have gone to jail, and I got 5 warnings. So after the fifth time that this happened, and I had someone that had been bugging to buy my Corrado from me, when I got back in the car after a fifth warning for street racing that could have taken me to jail, um, I called this dude and I was like, "All right, man, I don't really want to sell it, but I'll be home in an hour, and if you're in my driveway with cash, you can buy it." I said, "But if you wait and I have time to think this through, I probably won't sell it." And sure enough, when I pulled in the driveway, he was there. So
Fan
yeah,
of himself with that money.
that was about a year of my uh, street racing days, and I had a lot of fun. Got it to 152 mile an hour over the expressway bridge in Seminole County here.
Damn,
Um,
son, that's
yeah,
flying.
yeah, yeah, and it was scary. I mean, the car wasn't made to go that, it really wasn't safe to go that fast, but I just wanted to see how fast it would go. But I mean, it was nothing for us to run up and down I-4 after leaving the clubs and stuff, going buck 20, buck 30, man. It was pretty wild days back then. So,
So I got a
so
question, a good one. What do Volkswagens teach people? Because you have a wide background, right? What do Volkswagens teach people that other cars don't?
a lot. So my first complex answer will be, what you always hear about Volkswagens is how simple they are, how easy they are to work, all the things, right? What I've come to appreciate, and I think your audience will, those of us that have spent a lot of time working on these cars, um, that level of simplicity took an awful lot of engineering. I mean, when you really think about how purposeful it was, and I hope we're going to get into the suspension and stuff, especially the rear drop plates. Um, I'll expand on that, but one of the things I personally have learned about working on the Volkswagens is that simple doesn't mean not well thought out, not purposeful. It has a reason behind it. I mean, you contrast it with some engineering on these American cars and stuff that, and not even just American, but like you want to take a bolt out, you can't even get to the damn bolt because they put, something else in the way. I always I've turned wrenches enough to get frustrated at what I consider either poor engineering or just not well planned, or somebody
Right.
somebody in the corporate office saying to save 25 cents you need to put the bolt there, or something stupid. And not that Volkswagens aren't discouraging to work on, they are, anything is. But overall, from my experience, they're well thought out. And once you understand why things are done the way they are, they're really pretty easy and enjoyable to work on. Um, the other things I've learned, obviously, all my mechanical knowledge, to be honest, I can credit to just figuring stuff out on Volkswagens, which has allowed me to transfer over to other things.
Right.
Specifically, I mean, I've been in the landscape business a long time. I've owned two of my own companies. Well, commercial mowers, the Exmark and John Deere mowers and stuff. These are air-cooled motors. Um, the maintenance, I have had great success in maintaining and keeping value in my commercial lawn equipment because of my background in discipline in air cooled,
Mm.
keeping the motors cleaned, making sure the oil's in them, making sure that they breathe, just basic things. A lot of these guys run around with these mowers and they got leaves and dirt and grease all around their air cooled Kawasaki motor on the back. Well, guess why your motor blows? I mean, it's air cooled. So a lot of common sense mechanical knowledge that I've learned that I've been able to apply to other things. The culture's taught me a lot, just the different people, I mean, from all walks of life, all financial position. And I mean, it's just this funny little car that's connected with such a wide slice of humanity.
God,
Um,
so true.
and it's a car with an uncomfortable history, but yet was the symbol of the peace movement. There's just a lot to it. I don't know. I could probably think of many more things I've learned, but I mean those are a few key ones. So, but I enjoy
So
the people for sure. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the things we did at the Dub Lab? When when we started the Dub Lab, I, again, had been doing really high end paint and body. I was trained by one of the best known, Chevy high end hot rod builders in the country. So my hope was to bring that level of quality into the Volkswagens. That had always been a dream of mine. Um, I understood that to start a business, because I had one before. I mean, you kind of got to do things that don't quite fit the target goal sometimes. Little bump fender benders. I mean, I painted. Hell, we had a lumber company down the street. I would paint commercial doors for them that they were selling to their contractors. That had metal finish on the outside, and we'd sandblast them, epoxy them, paint them. I painted a couple boats. So just, random stuff to keep the cash flow going.
sure.
And then we started doing some of our own builds. Got a couple cool things that came in and just really almost kind of exaggerated on Facebook, to just try to get ourselves out there and our capability. And so it was a slow process to get the cool shit in there, if that makes any sense. Along the way, once we started to get some builds in, where we were putting beams and these kinds of things on it, um, the source that we were getting parts from, come to find out, was taking advantage of clients and taking deposits and not paying people. And so you had some of this stuff starting to blow up, and suddenly we found ourselves becoming a parts company, as well in the midst of all this. There were some guys building beams, but not as many maybe as there are today. Um, so we started to do that, and then the drop plates in the back was really, um, I think, the thing that most people would remember. That was the part that we sold the most, and where I kind of maybe got some level of credibility in the marketplace, because there's a lot of confusion of how to lower the rear of a torsion, spring plate Volkswagen.
Mhm.
Um, and as I was building my 56 Beetle and getting her on the road, I started to realize that just the poor alignment that you have if you really want to slam a Beetle on a stock spring plate. It's very sketchy, and anybody listening, please don't do that. At the very least, you need extended plates, but really drop plates, I think, are best. They're kind of like, everybody knows to put drop spindles on the front, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. So your suspension basically stays the same. You've just raised the wheel up 2.5 inches. I mean, that's basically what a drop plate is. Um, and it's just funny because along the time we were starting to get some presence, a guy out in California that was well known for building drop plates accused me of copying his, basically.
Oh.
Um, and this became a big online kind of drama. And I mean, I showed pictures step by step of me cutting a stock plate and raising it up and, putting some extra metal and welding it all up, basically making my first drop plate, learning the geometry. So, long story short, um, I found myself in this weird Volkswagen scene drama that I didn't really create. And, all the fans on my page were jumping in and it was nonsense. But through that process and just some of that visceral stuff that was happening, um, we identified a need in the market and offered a pretty competent product with good geometry. We put extra adjustment on the toe. And at the time, people were really into to slamming the static rides.
Mhm.
Um, and
Still are.
my argument was cool. Well, there's a way to do it and not, be a threat to yourself and others on the road. Um, so yeah, and then we did pick up a pretty high-end build. Um, Jim actually bought a former DBK car, DBK being, a well-known club out in California. Everybody knows them, super high-end stuff, killer talent, great builds. But it was one of the early builds, and I don't know the story behind it, but the paint was failing, and so Jim got it, and we were gonna basically resurrect this former DBK build, and that just, there were a couple deals. I don't want to get into all the details, but the two or three kind of cool things that we finally really got going on, all started well, and really what it always boiled down to was um, people, especially people that could help you, if you help them kind of mindset. You know, man, if you do this favor for me, I'm gonna really help you make it big in the scene. And um, at the end of the day, as a business decision, I mean, we looked at these things. I mean, we were putting hundreds and hundreds of hours on cars for nothing, and it got frustrating and started taking the fun out of it. Um, and you're going to lose money when you start a business. Anybody should recognize that. Very few businesses their first year, maybe two, really really hit a steady stream. You're in a steady kind of growth stage. So
Yeah, you
um,
break you break even.
and that was fine but after 2 years, we're looking at it and the trend just didn't seem to be getting better. Um, and personally, to your point of sort of the storyline here,
Hmm.
between the extra hours I was putting on builds, um, the customer service that I really prided myself in and helping the end user that bought our products. I really felt not obligated, but I wanted to help make sure that they got it on their car successfully. Eventually, I made a forum thread, and I should have done that sooner. But I mean, I would spend a lot of time just kind of walking them through step by step. They'd take pictures of where they were at. I mean, this is like on a Saturday when I'm out with my family and stuff. Um, so you just start kind of stepping back from it. And it was really just unhealthy where I was at that moment. And financially, I needed to look into making a career change. And when I saw, with my background in landscaping, when I saw the development uh, starting up again, because '08, in '08 the market crashed. So
Don't remind me. I owned a mortgage company.
yeah, so like all these things are just kind of happening. I don't know that we picked the best time to start the shop that we started, because we were still kind of in that recession, and so there was a lot of factors going on. But with the way things were going, when I saw dirt moving again, I was like, okay, it might be time I can go start a business, landscape business again, and take a break from cars and really, I just wanted to get enough cash flow where in life where I could build cool shit. I mean, that's always really been my driver.
Yeah,
Um,
cool.
So, and Jim was having, Jim Spiker from Auto Styles, what a great guy. I mean, we had so much fun and we're still friends to this day. But it was really kind of a mutual agreement. I think I drove that. Jim might disagree. Um, it, it surprised him when I came in one day and was like, you know what, I think it's time to move on. We had a standalone body shop that we were leasing to cut cost. We kind of moved operations into his shop. So now I'm over in one corner trying to do, paint and body and dusty stuff. And on the other side of the shop, he's tinting windows on a, $80,000 Mercedes SUV, or doing, car audio type stuff. And we did that for a little while to try to make it work. Um, but a lot of factors kind of came together, and my personal life, just with my ex-wife, I don't fault the business or any of this. It was kind of coming to that point anyways.
Hmm.
But all of these things were just happening at the same time, and it was kind of like, okay, I think I'm gonna bow out. I made good on all my promises to people. Um, even bent over backwards. My goal when it closed is I was like, okay, maybe we didn't hit the big time like I thought we would, but what I definitely don't want to do is have a bad reputation when I leave. I even did stuff for free for some people that kind of still cried a little bit, and I was like, all right, bring it over. Let's make it right. Um, and to my knowledge, um, we never stuck anybody. We always did our best to make good. It's a hard space to start a body shop. I have a ton of respect for, the long restorations. I think he was one of your guests recently. I mean, Paul Liozzo out in Oregon. I mean, Paul's doing what I had always dreamed of. So, I have a lot of respect for, and there's others. I'm not leaving anybody out intentionally. But I had a small taste of the challenges. So when I see these guys that are out there killing it, man, I got a ton of respect.
Yeah, man.
High five. Um, so yeah, when we closed the shop down, I mean, I continued to do some stuff on the side. I built a couple chassis. I was still selling drop plates. Um, did a few beams, and just kind of gradually, just kind of faded away, honestly. So to your point, to the theme of the show, I mean, I did kind of walk away. Not over anything dramatic, just life changed, and
Yeah, yeah.
um, but what I found was the draw to get back involved, and so we bought Ethel, our '69 bay window. We bought her. I guess we've had her six years or so, 7 years. Started going back to the shows and stuff. Um, the Silver Bug behind you was one of our last builds. So that's Sadie. She was a pretty cool car when she came in. Um, I tried to talk the guy into restoring her because that's what she really needed. She had multiple paint jobs on her. Had already been bagged. Basically, we took it apart, fixed what we could on the paint, primed it, blocked it, resprayed it. So got a driver paint job. The cool thing, we de-chromed the whole car.
Mm.
So every piece on that car that had, chrome is now either powder coated or painted. Uh, Built him a new front beam. The front beam was super sketchy on it, that it came in with. The back was done pretty well. We corrected a couple things on the rear, but basically just made her look cool. Jim cleaned up the interior, did a little stereo work on it, and so that was one of the last builds we did. And it kind of disappeared. I never saw it again. And then it came up for sale 2 years ago on Bring a Trailer,
Wow.
and yeah,
Still in good
and
shape?
it was not in as good a shape as it was presented. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Um, Mechanically, especially. So I've spent a lot of time correcting some stuff, and
You
so
bought you bought it back?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I
awesome,
bought,
bro.
yeah,
You
I bought it
hardly
off
ever
of,
hear that.
yeah, I bought it off of Bring a Trailer, and drove down to Fort Myer to pick it up. Couldn't even drive it on the trailer, so wasn't real happy. Um, but yeah, it was the Bowden tube was bad on it. But a bunch of other mechanical stuff I've sorted through, and I repainted a couple panels on it. She's just a cool car, and people like her. I should have her back at a couple shows here later this month. Missed Henry's Depot, tried to get her there this weekend, but um, so yeah, just I do feel a pull back to the scene a little bit. I don't know to what degree, but
You
it's
had
there.
mentioned earlier when we were touching on it that, you were really big on responding when you were at the height of the heyday, with 40,000 followers. You were really big on responding. Why did engaging, personally matter to you?
I guess because that's kind of what I expect, and I'm in sales now, and I'm anal about following up, and I'm there's a degree of customer service that I don't think is unreasonable to expect. Um, and I always tried to do that, and I also have worked around enough egos in the car scene. Um, it's frustrating when people think that because they got good at something, they're whatever, you know. Um, I mean that's cool. I'm glad you're good at it, but I'm pretty good at stuff too, and really the ones that annoy me are the ones that just run their mouth, and I'll have to remind them, like, you realize, like, I can just look at it, right? I mean, I can look at your work. I don't need you to keep telling me how awesome you are, you know? Um,
I
so I've
have eyes
always
too.
I always kind of had that. I didn't ever want to be that guy. And especially, like, I'm not a really good welder. I'm self-taught, and like, so, the guys that'll comment anytime, I mean, good Lord, anytime you post a picture of a weld, I mean, there's 50 welding experts that come on that are going to tell you how bad your weld is and whatever, you know. So I prefer to have a positive experience, car related, online, and just tried to spend a lot of time with that. And I'll tell you, probably some of the greatest messages that I've gotten, either email or on Facebook, were from people commenting just about the time that I would spend with them, and just the fact that I was approachable, and it wasn't sustainable in our business model, but I think there's a lesson there for anybody in business, is to, especially with the tools and things we have now, to systemize other parts of your business, so you can maybe give a human voice a little more to your clients than, if you didn't have the rest of your, things efficient. So, I say that in objection to, like, systemizing the customer service piece. I don't like that. And that seems to be a trend where all the responses, everything is so automated. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm old school. I like that. I kind of like that human collaboration, you know?
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. And the whole now hearing, the whole story and the walking away side, it wasn't because of failure. It was just because of life.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, we fell short of some expectations. A trend I saw coming, that I think is a trap that builders can get into, is where, because of the cash flow demands and the side of the business that's important, that's maybe not as fun, is the number side,
Yeah.
um, can maybe drive you to start cutting corners, and doing more. Not that I'm opposed to like driver paint jobs and that kind of stuff, but that what really wasn't the vision that I had for it. I didn't want to get known, and I felt like the more we were going, the more we were kind of getting branded as like the hood ride, patina. Um, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that, and I love that. But that isn't really what I had envisioned for the shop. I wanted to figure out how to tap into that uber high end, those builds, and it just didn't happen, and that's okay.
Yeah,
So
you said something that's interesting though. You talked about understanding and knowing the numbers. And professionally, my full-time job, I'm a sales trainer. And a question that I get a lot from young technicians is, they want the silver bullet. What's the one thing that I can do, to really up my game and to really increase my closing percentage or to increase my average ticket? And my answer is usually always the same to them. I always say, well, what's your closing percentage now? And they go, um, I don't
mhm.
know. And I go,
Exactly.
exactly. If
Yeah.
you really want to get good at this, you got to know
Yeah.
your numbers. So it was interesting to hear you say that because even in business, on that completely opposite end of the spectrum, it's so important to know your numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I was stubborn with, quality of product. I had been a high-end European brand painter for a long time. We did find a middle point that was cheaper, obviously, than Sikkens and Glazeret and those type of products. But um, I could have, if that's the direction the shop was going, if that's where the market was, there were product lines that were less expensive. But again, it gets back to kind of what the vision that I had for the brand and the shop. And I was like, and thankfully, when Jim and I were able to talk through all of that, it made sense to him as well. And um, so, you know, I tell you, I meant to mention this earlier, for a couple years there, we were we were a pretty common name. I mean, in other countries especially. Um, and this still blows me away, this memory. We were at Nodo 2 years in a row, um, with a couple cars, and we would sponsor the show. Um, and like this group of people from Brazil, VW fans from Brazil would come up and talk to us in broken English. And but the first year it really caught me off guard. They wanted a picture they wanted to stand their whole group in front of our booth with Jim and I in a picture, And I was like, why do you want a picture of us? And they're like, oh man, you're famous in Brazil. And I was like,
Yo, that's
and
so
Jim and I
cool.
laugh about it because we're both such dorks. Um,
Oh,
but I
that's
mean, but that was a cool experience for them. So we were like, hell yeah, and we were giving them stickers and let them
yeah,
sit,
cool.
and Jim, the second year Jim had we had resprayed his bus and put the big logo on it and had his sound system in it. So we let them sit in the bus, and they were getting videos of the sound system, and we were just trying to help them enjoy it. But I mean, a bizarre experience for us anyways, to realize the reach that social media had, was pretty bizarre back then. More common today, of course, but
Why do some cars almost become family?
I have a relationship with every car I've owned. You know, this one specifically, I really liked the style of it. The silver that we chose, it's just a super clean silver, but and it doesn't have it. I don't remember exactly, but it doesn't have pearl in it. If it does, very little white pearl or something. But it has this cool kind of blue flop in the right lighting. And it's a color that I custom made and played around with. Um, so I liked that. I liked the kind of monochromatic, um, the dechroming and all that. So the concept of the car I really like, and I think that's my appeal to it, and it's the appeal to others. It's a pretty modified car, but you almost have to look at it a little more closely to realize, because it just kind of blends in. It's not offensive, but it's custom.
Yeah.
And I like that. So that's probably my personal
It's crazy that I
attachment to it.
found that you found it again though,
Yeah.
and that you got it back. Are you gonna, you know, get it running again and everything
Yeah,
and
she
sell
she
it,
run.
or are you gonna
Yeah,
keep
she
it?
run. She runs. I had her on the road. I went to a couple shows with her, and
Okay.
a guy pulled out in front of me, and I don't know how I didn't hit him, but I slammed on the brakes, and the one of the springs on the drum brake shoe on the back busted loose, and so I've got the brakes apart now. I'm kind of redoing that,
You gonna keep
and
this car, or are you gonna sell it?
just going back through and checking it up. I don't think I'm going to keep it long term. I have a 67 square back I want to restore, and I've got a 65 Beetle, that's rough. So I think I want to do something pretty radical to that, because it's
Cool.
like it's rough enough that I don't like. I want to cut it up and do something cool with it. So
So this question's real then, because I'm getting the answer to it right now. Do builders ever really stop building?
I
And you're answering that now. No, they don't.
I don't think so. I think we may gravitate to other things, but I mean, if if you've got that bug and you're an artist and you like working with your hands and um, I don't know, I haven't found anything as therapeutic and enjoyable as not only the Volkswagen, but I thoroughly enjoy the paint and body. Um, and I'm getting myself set up here, putting a second shop up and got a new compressor I got recently, and so
Hey
I'm
man,
I'm I'm
good for you,
I'm
bro. Good for
I'm
you.
moving the ball down the field. We'll see
Yeah,
where it
good for
goes.
you.
We'll see where it
Awesome.
goes.
So let's touch on this then.
Yeah.
What advice would you tell a young builder in the scene that's listening right now to this podcast? What advice do you have for a young builder in the VW community?
Keep it simple, stupid is a pretty fundamental business idea worth,
Strategy. Yeah.
yeah. Um, when I look back, I think the side venture that we went on with suspensions and stuff, I found it very difficult to I thought I was creating like one thing, like one business model, and I ended up finding myself trying to create multiple at the same time. So I would say keep it simple, stupid. Learn what you're good, know what you're good at, focus on that. Um, for instance, I'd rather buy beams and stuff from some of these builders that are killing it out there. And just focus on the skill set that's my best, which is the paint and body.
Mm.
I don't mind doing metal work, but even partner with guys that are really good at that. And just kind of narrow it down and learn how to make money. Learn how to make positive cash flow, and
Know your numbers. Know your numbers.
as you get the machine kind of going and steady, that's when you start thinking about some side ventures or whatnot. But I found that trying to do it all at once was a bit overwhelming.
Okay. Good advice.
Yeah,
And it's okay to step back without losing who you are, isn't it?
it totally is. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
totally
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Um,
Well, your personal health and those things are important, and whether your story is you closed your shop down or you walked away from VWs for a while and raised your kids. I mean,
right.
it's across the field, and what I love is that the community is still healthy and it's still there. The cars are more expensive, maybe harder to find, but the people are the same, and there's younger generations coming in. It's kind of just this cool living organism, the Volkswagen community, and don't stay away too long, and it welcomes you back. So if we're working towards closing the conversation, some things that I see different now that I really like. I love like the podcast. I've mentioned that to you, and digging a little deeper, finding people's stories. Derek Henry up in Pensacola, and
Oh,
what
super
what
cool
that
guy,
group
man.
what that group is doing with they're not it's not just that their club is getting bigger, but
Tech
they're doing
sessions.
like the tech sessions, and they're
Yeah,
doing
bro.
it's
Stud.
it's a community. That community piece seems to be coming back.
Yeah,
And
nice. Good call.
I'd love to see something like that in Central Florida. Not that
Shout out to Derek.
yeah, not that it doesn't already exist. It may, but I have a heart to maybe help that. So, as I get my shop and stuff sorted out here, I mean, I can envision, offering a little, once a month or something, having
Yes.
you guys
I
come
love
over.
that. I love the sound of that. I got a
Yeah,
buddy out
I'm gonna
west
have
in
a
Colorado, Grant Aslan. He's got Volkswagens on the Green and a couple other shows that he does, but the Volkswagens on the Green has over 400 cars. And that's done right in the springtime. But dude, he puts on tacos and carburetors and like,
yeah.
shit like that, that it's just like, what, bro? He's so cool. And like you said, it's all about, really promoting the community aspects of being in the Volkswagen community as we know it. But yeah, man, I think with Derek, same thing. And watching from a distance, it's like, oh, what a good idea. We should do that down here, West Coast, Central Florida, type stuff. And me and my buddy Alan have talked about it. But then I hate to say it, but that's about as far as it goes because I've got this podcast. He's got his, I've got my career. He's got his whole career in his
Yeah.
shop. He does upholstery in, the marine industry and now also in, for automotive as well. He's got the automotive line now, with Vera. But it's a great thought, community driven, and I think it's a piece that's missing. So I love to see that number one, that's attractive to you, and I hope you do it, and number two, I like to see that it's coming back and that it is a part of this culture right now, uh, all over the country, man.
Yeah, another thing that I really am impressed with is Rodney and Kate Culp from
Dude,
Metamorphosis.
yes.
Like
Whoa.
the concept behind. I mean, they're doing super cool shit,
It's
but
the charity shit,
the
dude.
concept behind the build and the charity, like that's what I'm saying. I think there's a shift.
I
The
reached out to
scene,
him. You know, I'm kind of a fan. So I reached out as a fan first, kind of like, hey, man, I love what you guys are doing with all the charity work. I'd love to have you on the podcast. He never even responded.
yeah,
All good, though. All good. You
yeah.
know, it,
Well,
it is what it is.
but keep I like to see the scene keep kind of pushing that direction. I mean,
Oh,
the
dude, they are on to something.
more community, more charity,
Yes.
I mean, I listened to Bill from No Do
No,
Bus
no.
Show, and the
Yeah.
history of his shows in Miami,
Yeah.
teaming up with the building houses for people. I mean,
Yeah, man.
this is where my heart is now, a little bit later in life, and maybe that's the next side of it that I'll get involved with is somehow more community and just helping people where they are mindset amongst this cool little car culture called Volkswagen. I dig it.
I dig it. And that's a wrap for this episode of DubLife Diaries. Thanks for riding along with us and diving into these incredible stories of the people in the dubs that drive their dreams. If you love today's episode, don't forget to subscribe or hit that follow button so you never miss an adventure. Do you have a story to tell or know somebody else who's living the dub life? Awesome! Reach out to us. You can find us on all socials at DubLife Diaries or shoot me an email. I'm not hard to find. DubLifeDiaries@gmail.com. Until next time, keep the engines humming and the wheels turning, and always follow the road that inspires you. This is Joe Person. I'm signing off. I'll catch you on the next ride.